Hey everyone, we're here today with Dr. Karen Way. She's a holistic chiropractor who specializes in functional medicine. And what that means is she's just going to look at the whole body and not necessarily the disease, but what's causing the disease and care for you that way. So she's here today. She's going to be talking to us about anxiety, specifically anxiety in motherhood, because if you're a mother, then you probably, definitely struggle with anxiety from time to time. So Karen, what are you seeing in your patients as far as this goes? What are they asking you? And I guess, what are the tips you're giving? First, let's get into like what you're seeing in mothers specifically with anxiety.
So I think with the COVID and the stay at home, a lot of moms are completely stressed out and overwhelmed. So a lot of patients are reaching out with fear, extra anxiety. They're feeling overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed with all the things that they have on their plate. A lot of people are feeling scattered and non-productive just because everybody's with them 24/7 and they don't know how to manage that. Some depression and a lot of sleep issues. So the stress has definitely amped up dramatically with the stay at home, especially for moms. And even add to that, if you're a working mom from home, I don't even know how these women are doing it, but this is the level of stress that people are like reaching out and saying, help, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to manage this.
Oh, wow. Like you brought that up. I personally have been having, I've kind of always had sleep issues, or at least since motherhood. But since COVID, it has skyrocketed. It's almost like, it's like a I feel like I don't know what is causing it other than the combination of working from home. So getting work done after the kids go to sleep, and also needing like to not be touched for like a little while. Needing quiet time, and that's like literally the only quiet time I have. But anyway, yeah. So what tips are you giving these mothers for helping with it?
So I think for the most part, it's just good to be heard. You know, I think that women just do so much all of the time, and they're constantly taking care of everybody else, that it's good to have somebody that they can talk to and feel emotional support from. So I think it's good to have a support team, and I'm happy to be part of that support team. A lot of what the recommendations that I help women with are based on understanding what their lives are specifically, what the specific stresses are, how they're feeling it, how it's manifesting in their body, giving them some ideas on how they can tweak their lifestyles, and then some sort of stress reduction techniques that can help them manage this really uncertain time, and this really weird space that we're all kind of stuck in, right? We can't do anything about it. We're just basically stuck at home. And mothers are taking care of their children. Their kids are taking classes, school at home, which is an additional stress that the mothers have to take care of. They've got their partner home 24/7, which they're not accustomed to. Kids home 24/7. So even outside of the whole school aspect of having your kids at home, you know, they can't go socialize with their friends. So there's that extra stress of having to entertain your kids. And then add in there at some point in your day, well, what about you? Where are you and what are your needs, right? So it's about trying to juggle all of that. And at the end of the day, feel like you aren't frazzled, you've gotten something done, and you have some sense of peace, right? So some of the biggest tips have to do with, first and foremost, you have to, I think, take a look at where we are and reflect on it, and then understand that we have to change our expectations in terms of what's a realistic day for you now during the COVID, right? It is not, people are not able to do the same things that they could do before the COVID for obvious reasons, right? So first and foremost, I think it's important for women and men, of course, too, but I do feel that women are feeling it more, to understand that you have to change your expectations and you have to put less on your plate, because it's completely unrealistic to think that you can do everything without crashing. There will be consequences, right? Stress is not just an abstract thing. It has biochemical manifestations in the body. So it will affect your physical body, not just your mind and feeling anxious, but it will affect your physical body and your health as well, right? This whole mind-body connection. So first, you need to change your expectations. Secondly, the advice that I give is to add some steady structure to your day. So maybe before the COVID, you did things, you know, A, B, C, D, easy breezy, right? But now you've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So how are you going to get all those things done? Organization and structure is key, because without structure, everything becomes very scattered and non-congruent, right? Yeah. So in some patients, they're a constitution or a body type that gets really scattered easily, sort of like an ADD personality. So that constitution, it's even more important for them to structure their days and their children's days, and sometimes as much as hour by hour, or if somebody's really out of balance, you know, 5-minute gaps at a time. What am I going to do throughout my day for an, you know, hour by hour or 5 minutes by 5 minutes? It really depends on how out of balance they are, how much they feel like their lives are cycling out of control, right? So the structure is super important. And to have a little bit of consistency in terms of certain things that you do at certain times of the day. So you should eat your, you know, lunch and your breakfast and your dinner at a particular time. This is good for your kids, right? Because kids really function well with structure. Right. Make sure that you're eating at the same time, that they are, and you are doing X activity at a certain time. So you have sort of this framework of structure, and then you can tweak it and get specific within that framework, some different things that you want to do on any given day, if that makes sense, right? And then I think once you get past changing your expectations, taking some things off your plate and spreading them out over a longer period of time, adding some structure to your day, I think self-care is really important. And it's something that all of us mothers are really guilty of not doing, right? I know that when, you know, when I was having my family, I had just graduated from chiropractic college. Like, my life happened where I graduated from chiropractic college. 2 weeks later, I got married, and on my honeymoon, I got pregnant. And that was so not the plan, right?
That's very similar to, I mean, I didn't get pregnant right away, but I finally got a job after searching for 6 months. I pinned my husband at his nursing graduation 1 week before we got married.
Oh my gosh.
Very similar, a lot at once. And really life, especially as a mother, is always a lot at once. There's no peaceful times.
Exactly. So I went from the stress of being a student, having to study for my national boards, for my state boards, all of that nonsense. No, it's not nonsense, really. I'm just kidding. But all of that, right? So you go from the stresses of being a student and all the student stresses to now you are married, and oh, guess what? Now you're pregnant and you still have to pass certain state boards before you can start your practice and blah, blah, blah. And just like, what? So needless to say, you know, once I passed all my boards, I started my family. We had to start practice like right away because you've got your student loans coming in. So I had to figure out, like, holy crap, how am I going to practice full time? You first start practice, you can't work a 20-hour week. It has to be like minimum 60-hour a week, right? So how do you juggle all that? How do you open a practice? You have a newborn, you know, you've had this home birth, you've had this beautiful experience. Now it's time to give this baby up to somebody else who's going to help you take care of them. And now you have to go work and somehow keep your mind on work when you just want to be with your baby. And then you're nursing, so you have to, like, during your lunch, you got to pump milk, and like, it's crazy what us women do, right? So Self-care wasn't necessarily in the picture. You know, you're young, you're vital, and you can do it all, and you do it all. But the fact is, that is very draining, and it does have ramifications down the road. So self-care is something that I had to, over time, find the time in my day for. Taking
Mhm.
time out for me to take care of me so that I could be a good mom, a better wife. I could be more productive in everything that I had to do, right? So self care, be self compassionate, have love towards yourself unconditionally. You know, nobody's perfect. Don't judge yourself. I think that's super important. And be gentle with yourself. You know, just go with it. We all have limitations and you just have to do your best. So I think self-care, in terms of self-compassion, self-love, that attitude is really important. And in addition to that, what I find, what I found for myself and what I find a lot of young women experience, in terms of juggling it all has to do with the fact that they feel not only anxiety, but they feel shaky and heart palpitations, and they have a lot of symptoms that actually are what we call going into hypoglycemia. When you are so busy and you've got so much on your plate, sometimes you forget to eat, or you forget to eat well, or you eat the wrong foods, you eat too much sugar, or you consume too much caffeine. All of those things are not going to support you in being productive and balanced and stable and have this optimal energy to do all the things that we have to do. It's not an option, right? We have to do these things. So,
Yeah.
what I suggest for women is that, you know, nutrition is really important. Try to eat as nutrient dense diet as you can, which means lots of color from what we get from the earth. So all of the produce, nice clean proteins and nuts and oils and all of that kind of thing. Make sure you're eating lots of that stuff and get a lot of the processed foods out if you can, and the sugars. That alone can really help you if you're eating solid meals regularly that are nutrient dense with plenty of protein. You're not allowing your body to go on this yo-yo and roller coaster of sugar highs and lows. And most young women, and I was the same, are on that yo-yo. They are on that roller coaster for sure. They go high, they go low, they go high, they go low, and their whole day is like that. I
I
don't know
love
if
that you, I love that you say like this for self-care, because I see like a lot of people like putting on a face mask for self-care or taking a bubble bath for self-care. And that's not self-care to me. That's like a little bit of time to relax, where self-care is actually taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, taking care of your body,
exactly,
your spirit. While
exactly.
that is relaxing, what being just getting your body moving and feeding your body what it needs, that's what's going to energize your body, not putting on a face mask or taking a bubble bath.
Right,
That's
exactly.
like a little band-aid onto the problem of you really need to do self-care. You need to have grace and you need to fuel your body with what it needs. So I like this. That is what I see self-care as too. So
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I when I first started practice, like I said, I had way too much on my plate. But again, there's not much we can do about that, right? I mean, you've got to start your practice. You've got a baby. You've got all these responsibilities. We can't throw the responsibilities out the window. So you have to learn, how am I going to be able to manage it? And what are my limitations? What can I actually do in a day's time? But I was absolutely dipping into hypoglycemia. Probably, I would say by 10:30 or 11, I was going into a sugar dip. And then again, I would go into a sugar dip mid-afternoon, right? And so with those sugar dips, you can go into this sort of like feeling of I'm tired and exhausted, right? So you can see how it all snowballs. And if you can't get on top of functioning within an optimal blood sugar range, you are never going to feel in control. And a lot of what my practice is about is it's empowering women to take control of their life and their health, and that they can do it. And I can teach you how to do that. So I think most importantly that women just make sure you're eating your meals. Don't skip meals. Everybody I know who has a young family is like, oh yeah, I don't eat breakfast, or I don't eat this, or sometimes I don't even have a glass of water all day. Like hydration is important
I'm
too,
so
right? So I've been there. I understand it, and
yeah.
I'm not passing judgment, but I'm
No,
saying,
I know.
you've got to make sure you're eating your meals, that it's balanced with proteins and fats and all the good nutrition.
My biggest fault as far as nutrition goes is definitely getting my water in. It's like I'm thirsty. I need to get myself a cup of water, and then I'll get totally sidetracked by one of the kids.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
Dale say to me, "Well, why are you feeling dizzy? Have you even had a drink of water today?" I'm like, "Not that many, probably."
Yeah.
And I can totally relate to the hypoglycemic thing too. We're both have nursing backgrounds, so he'll say, "I'm like, I feel like my blood sugar is low," and he goes, "That's impossible. You're not diabetic. Your body can regulate itself." But I'll get like cold sweats, and so I'm like, "You're wrong. I like. It's not like I'm hungry, but I need sugar in my body to keep on going." So.
Yeah, I mean, that's all part of the adrenal exhaustion. So, a lot of what I help from a scientific standpoint, a lot of what I want to do is help women manage this adrenal exhaustion that happens in almost 99% of the population, right? Part of that adrenal exhaustion is not only the feeling of being anxious, but also having your body chemistry go awry and to go off whack, so that you're more likely to go into these hypoglycemic situations and feel heart palpitations, you feel shaky, you feel like you're going to pass out, dizzy, all these things that women just don't connect. That guess what? You've kind of created this not knowingly, because you aren't eating enough, you're not drinking enough. So a lot of what I want to do is just educate young women to take care of themselves. Um, in addition to eating well, having your meals and snacks be balanced with proteins and fats and all of that, and hydration, it's important to move, right? So as you mentioned, exercise. So the one thing I have to say about exercise is we know exercise is vital for health. But if you are maxed out, like there's no room on that plate and it's overflowing, you need to take into consideration that your whatever movement you do should be mild and nurturing and gentle. So we, in the Western world, we have this misconception that we have to do like heavy aerobics and all this craziness for it to be a healthy exercise. And that's not true. In Eastern thought, they have an understanding of balancing the yin and the yang and knowing how much of what you need for yourself personally to be healthy. And so in Eastern thought, if you're completely frazzled, does it make sense to push the envelope and do, an hour and a half cardio or whatever it is, like, whatever that is, CrossFit and this and that? It's no wonder people are getting more sick, and they're not supporting themselves in a nurturing way. They're pushing themselves. So understand that exercise for me and my life and the level of stress that I have may be different than you and what's going on in your life. I don't have little kids. I'm not as stressed as I used to be. So I can push the envelope physically more than I could have when I was younger and I had way more on my plate. Does that make sense? So even if it's just a walk, even if you just go for a hike in nature, I always suggest get outside, get in the sun, breathe the fresh air. If you do nothing else, do that. Add a walk. If you feel like you can manage more, add more of an exercise, right? But don't overdo it.
Sense. That makes it, because I sometimes can make myself feel guilty that I'm not exercising, but I take the kids outside all the time for hikes in the woods. And then like my preferred in the evening time, if we're having if the whole house is having a lot of anxiety, I'll pull up this Cosmic Kid. She's like super cool lady, makes yoga really fun for the kids, but it's still there's still tricky poses for me. The kids are trying. We'll do yoga together.
I love it.
that's like a strength and balance training, but it's breathing and relaxing. And like, I guess that is like, you gave me chills when you talked about like balancing, like how much exercise you could do. Cause that I've never like thought about that. Like, I don't have to feel guilty that I don't like do strength training, or like you said, like tons of aerobics. Like I go outside, I go hiking, and like yoga are how I stay active. And they have been like, they work for me. They're good for me. I feel like I can
Exactly.
stay healthy, but at the same, I had this like strange guilt that I wasn't taking care of my body with exercise enough. When in reality, I'm actually doing pretty good on that
You're
front.
doing fantastic. I mean, I think guilt is the biggest enemy here. Like we feel guilty about the silliest things when we put so much on ourselves. And the fact of the matter is, I think if nothing else that I do in my practice is to teach, I'm a teacher, I'm definitely a teacher, is to teach patients what their constitutions are, what their specific makeup is. And we could have a webinar on that too if you want. That would be a fun one. What is your specific makeup? And based on that specific constitution and makeup, how much water should you be drinking? How much sleep do you need to function optimally? What kind of exercise is best for you? How much exercise is best for you, right? All these different aspects of individualizing your lifestyle, right? So individualized, personalized type medicine, right? So if there's nothing else I do, the message is always understand your body, learn who you are as a person, as a constitution, listen. And then also I teach people to know what to do when they're feeling certain things, because the symptoms of what we're feeling are the body's way of communicating with us to say, hey, you need to do something different right now, right? Please pay attention. I'm trying to tell you something. And instead we pop a pill, or most people will pop a pill to get rid of that symptom. So we're not listening and we're not making any changes for our own well-being. So if nothing else, that's what I love to do for people, is just teach them and then have them come back and say, hey, this happened. And based on our conversation, I did A, B, and C. And guess what? It went away and it never came back. And like, that's what gives me chills. That's my like, oh, this is why I do what I do, right? So education is really important, and listening to yourself and understanding yourself and your body is super important. And of course, I think the last thing in terms of managing this stay at home and crazy stress that women are having and we're all having is to actually take time out of your day to have alone time, just you. It can be that you meditate just even for 5 minutes twice a day, but take some time to decompress. If meditation is hard for you, then maybe do something like a yoga, something, or a Tai Chi, where you're quieting the mind, but you're still moving if you need to keep moving. If you can sit and be still and meditate, what that looks like is that you basically want to be able to tune into your body and bring all your senses in and acknowledge what you're feeling. Do a scan of your body. Where are you feeling what type thing? In just doing that and acknowledging that, you allow your body then to release it. So you just take simply 5 minutes of your day, twice a day, and especially do it before you go to sleep, because that's going to allow your body to come down a few notches, and it's going to shut that cortisol secretion. It's going to say to adrenal glands, no, there's no fire. You don't need to keep firing. I'm going to chill out now, and then I'm going to go to sleep. So I would suggest doing it definitely before bed, and then some other time during the day. But you want to just quiet the mind. You want to sit still. You want to tune in, bring in all your senses, feel, acknowledge, breathe, and then just let it leave the body. So this mind-body connection is real, right? If your mind is racing, there's no way that your physical body can feel peaceful. It's completely impossible, right? So the last step is that we actually have to take that time for ourselves to decompress mentally and physically so that we can be a better mother, wife, worker, whatever it is, whatever responsibilities you have on your plate, because you can't just keep adding and not taking something off and think you're going to be doing it well. or maybe you can get it done and maybe you can get away with doing it fairly decently, but there's going to be a sacrifice at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to sabotage yourself and get sick, because if you're running the home and you get sick, guess what happens to the home, right? And that's a bigger stress and guilt on you, right? If that happens. So
Right.
we don't want to keep chasing our tails. We want to have a little bit of a direction, a little bit of structure. We want to take care of ourselves, move and de-stress a little bit on a daily basis. And that should hopefully get you through the days. And if it's not enough, there are additional supplemental things that can be done nutritionally and or supplement wise. Natural medicine is very powerful. I grew up all natural. We never took medications ever, like ever. I think I took 2 antibiotics my whole entire life. So I completely believe that the body can do this on its own naturally. And so, that's my bigger message, is that, yeah, you can do this. And if you find that changing your lifestyle and doing these things isn't quite enough, there are tons of natural things you can do. And I'd be happy to help you with that too. You can always shoot me an email, and I'm happy to get back to you and give you some advice and some direction on how you might be able to help the situation if lifestyle alone is not enough.
Well, thank you. If I wanted to like touch on that, if anybody wants to, I'll obviously I'm gonna link your email as well, but if you could just like tell everybody is email the best way to get in
I would
contact with
say
you?
to start, email would be the best. And then if it turns out that if someone actually wants to have a consultation, then I can direct them to the front desk. My receptionist then could help them. But for now, what I'm doing is just having people reach out to me directly so I can kind of filter it and see, is this something, do I need to make my front desk more busy during the COVID time? Maybe I can just manage it on my own. And then if need be, we can set up a consultation if you're so inclined. But a lot can be done just one-on-one. So I think email right now is the best bet. And obviously if somebody wants to make a consult, they can call the clinic and do that. But I think email is a good way to start.
Okay. So if it like struck a chord with what Dr. Wei was saying today, and you want to get that personal help, that more personal help, like I'm excited about learning like the makeup of my body. If you want to learn that from her, then you can reach out to her. Thank you for being here today with
Thank you, Becca. It's been a
us.
pleasure.
I definitely learned a lot of new things that I am going to try to put into practice.
Nice. Thanks for having me. It was
Yep.
fun.